Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to panel number 6, I think we are. My name is Cam Buckner, and I am the Vice President of Government Affairs for the Central Region for Outfront Media, and I have the pleasure today of conducting this fireside chat with two gentlemen who I'm extremely proud of, that I'm a huge fans of. And I also will say that in the space that we work in the out-of-home industry, a lot of what we do is telling stories, right? We tell brand stories, we tell the stories of people and communities, and these gentlemen are also magnificent storytellers in their own right. And so please join me in welcoming the legendary and iconic Wyclef Jean and DJ Obi.
Bless.
Thank you. So we'll get straight to it. So, Clef, I'm gonna start with you. You're one of the great fusers of story and sound in our time. And when you think about, 3 Grammy, he's won 3 Grammys in his career. He has his fingerprints on some great music with folks like Whitney Houston and Mary J. Blige and Destiny's Child and Mick Jagger and Bono. But he's also been able to span politics and humanitarian work, be in the tech space, and not just be an artist, but a producer and a writer as well. So when you move between the studio, the stage, and the startup world, how do you do that but also keep centered on authenticity?
Well, I want to thank you. 1, 2. Where the sound man at? Yo, sound man, where you at? Do me a favor, a little volume. Put a little mid in there. I'm just messing with you. That's my engineering brain. Well, first of all, thank you, my brother. He's from Chicago. We was talking about house earlier. This is my little nephew now. I've adopted him fully.
Yes.
And then I plan to go to Nigeria, and the Juju's lady's going to give me something to put in my hair, and I'm going to get an afro in 2 days. Don't worry. So in saying that, I think that, first of all, people always talk about the Grammys, right? I got 3 Grammys, but I should have had 100 Grammys, right? And now I want to take you to the person in the world that has no Grammys, and he's the biggest artist. His name is Bob Marley. And I only say that just to say, like, I should have had 100, just showing you when you are coming from another country, right, and then you land in America, you hook up with Miss Hill, Lauryn Hill. She starts to teach you who the 4 Tops is, Marvin Gaye, Nina Simone, and then you start saying, oh, in Haiti, there's a band called Tabu Combo, there's Coupe Clouet. You start to put this thing together, right, and then you're like, oh, there's somebody else out of Nigeria named Fela Kuti, right? You start to put, and then you're like, she's like, what are you listening to? Is that country music? I'm like, yeah, it's Johnny Cash. What, Caribbean people listen to? Yeah, Caribbean people was raised on country music too. I think that what that does is it shows the collective of information. And when magic happens, it always happens with fusion. So at a very young age, I never believed in putting myself in a box. And I think that if somebody's like, oh, this is blues, this is jazz, this is rock and roll, this is country, this is hip hop. In my brain, it's either it's great music or it's bad music. You don't like it. So I think, like, for me, that's sort of like where it started. And we, the Fugees, had to fight. Because think about it. Before, I mean, literally, I'm showing up with the guitar on stage, right? One time in Philly, I ain't want to go up on stage with my guitar, right? Because, like, when you from the hood, you got to prove, like, you the best rapper first. Like, you can't show up and be like, bang, 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 bang. Like, yo, what this nigga doing with a guitar? But it just shows you, like, out of Philly where the roots come in, where we came in. So I would say, like, I would end that with saying that what my mom taught me coming to this country and what made it, like, the greatest place to come to was the idea of the melting pot. And I always wanted to keep that essence in the music.
That's dope. And Obi, just a little bit of that from you too, right? Just authenticity in the work that you're doing as you span genres and you span regions, right, across this globe. How do you keep that at the center?
I never forget where I come from. Welcome. Good afternoon, everybody. DJ Obi, all the way from Nigeria. And like I just said, I never forget home. I went to school out here in Boston. And even then, I always told people I was from Nigeria. Like, when I meet people or when I met people, I would tell them I just came from Nigeria because I wanted it to be known. I figured out that very quickly, America is the land of, diverse cultures, but the way to stand out is to remain authentic by associating yourself with home. And home for me will always be Nigeria. So I represent everything Nigerian. I represent my family as well that is fully Nigerian. I represent everybody, friends, close allies, everybody that's from the continent. I take a responsibility to represent and represent well, because we do get the terrible stereotypes, we get all the bad stories and all of that. I want to be one of those people to change that narrative, so I stay authentic by just keeping in touch with home and always keeping the flag flying.
Fantastic. So my next question is, in advertising, in music, in tech, what we see is that black creators always set the trends, but we don't own the platforms, right? In many ways, and Clef, you and I were talking about some of the commodification of things in the back a little bit earlier. How do we flip that? So we're not just in the campaign, but we're also in the C-suite, where we have not just visibility, but also ownership.
Okay, yeah. And what he said, it touched me when he was like, yo, man, everything I do is Nigerian. And coming here to America and letting people know that you come from Nigeria, very important. I remember at the Grammys, I came out with my Haitian flag. Everybody know everything Haitian about me. But I'd be like, but Haiti is within the Americas. It's just the idea of saying it's a big world and never forget where you come from, because you could bring something to this country, which is important. In saying that, we move into the space of technology. So one of the things that I'm very excited about, now, I ain't gonna talk technology where y'all like, oh man, another rapper, man, he think he knows something about tech. So let's start off with my actual tech background. So I'm an engineer by trade. I started at 14 years old. I figured everything out before I even knew what, okay, I'm a geek out for the nerds, like what binaural was, the idea of using sine waves and everything. I was in the hood building my patch bays. Everyone that loves the score, the album y'all listen to and y'all love, I think it's done 30 years ago. Next year, that was done in my uncle's basement. We bought the equipment, we adjusted everything, we built an entire studio. So I want to start off by saying that. Later, then I went to college. I was like, it's not for me. Then later went to a music college. I left, but I'm a doctor of music. Went back for the, it's important to start off by saying that. In saying that, advertisers, the first thing I always say is, a lot of what you are depending on is on what I call culture currency. And in order for you to get the aspect of culture currency, you gotta make sure that the people that you're hiring really knows what the fuck they're talking about. Not in no hustle, cause I'm from the hood. A dude will sell you water and tell you it's oil. I'm saying really test the person out per the data, per the market that you're going. If somebody's like, yo, I can take over the Nigerian market. I'm giving you an example. We want to be in Nigeria. How many different tribes are there in Nigeria? No, not on ChatGPT. I'm asking you right now. And how do the tribes communicate? I'm just giving you an example. You're like, oh, I want to take over the Chicago market. Well, who founded Chicago? Where are we at? Not just in the idea of, because now you're in the era where you have to tap into culture currency. The only thing that the AI can't duplicate is the soul. And the soul is the actual culture. So that's what I tell the advertisers, moving forward with these big companies, just make sure the people that you're hiring are people that fully, really understand and respect the culture.
That's dope. So I didn't know what binaural meant, and before you said that, I still don't know what it means now, but I will find a binaural.
Okay, it's cool, the nerdy thing. I'm going to show you binaural. Look, I'm a professor. Now watch this. Stay quiet. You can hear me speaking to you. Okay. Can you hear what's behind you?
Slightly.
The air conditioner?
Yeah.
You don't hear that?
I hear it.
All right, so now if you pay attention, you can hear that. Now in a movie theater, what you need is you need one speaker here, one here, and one there, correct?
Right.
So binaural is infinite sound. It lives in
Got it.
between you. So naturally, this is how we hear as the human. So without the speakers, you know what I'm saying to you? And I know what some people say, Wyclef be taking psychedelic mushrooms. I really don't. I'm just saying, just giving you up. Oh, and the last thing I was going to say is you said something very important. Where's the future going? This the future in present time. When I came back in the music industry, I was like, okay, artists today ain't making no money. Listen to what I'm saying to you. The music industry is completely broken. Like, you could be streaming 3-4 billion on something. The checks that I see as a publisher, you'll never see, right? So I tell artists, this is where the money's at. The money is owning your content, owning everything that you create, building your own IP. So we have the future. The future is called open wave, right? So open wave, I hope people don't kill me, like, because sometimes you come up with something like, but we got to get rid of it. The open wave, listen, what it does is the artists own 80% of the platform. They own their IP, right? Keep in mind, you own your IP and all of that. Now, what makes this different than other platforms is because it's a mixture of Amazon Music and Alibaba. So this amazing artist right now, and I ain't pitching you, this amazing artist right now, but Uncle, don't pitch me. If this amazing artist right now, if he's like, I want to make 5,000 pants like this, right? And he basically has to get the money to make the pants, not on open wave. He literally puts the model that he wants. He makes the pants, right? Because his super fans, right, the data don't lie. Because he already know if it's 500 super fans, they're going to pay $2,000 for these pants. So as we move towards the future of the artist is in the idea of owning the IP, getting consignment from a company to build exactly from clothing and all of your products and moving forward, because that's where you're going to make the money. So that's literally what we've built, and it's called Open Wave.
Got it. So for many of the folks here in the advertising space, a lot of the questions and conversations center around brand stamina, right? Obi, I'm talking to you a little bit about endurance, right? So for those who don't know, Obi holds the world record for most consecutive hours DJing. Is it 240 hours?
230 hours, no sleep.
230 hours of DJing with no sleep.
I like that.
Yeah, so
like that.
Man, what does stamina mean? Like literally in the work that how you did that, but also stamina and creativity, right?
So I did that, and it was the most craziest thing, the maddest thing I've ever done in my life. But that also birthed the energy that you're talking about, which led to me starting Obi's House, which is 5 years now since COVID. It's a thing of the mind. Impossible is nothing, you know. How bad do you want it, and how good do you want it, honestly? It's really consistency. When I did the world record, in my mind, I had done it already. I just needed to physically do it. So it's in your mind, how when you're planning whatever it is, marketing, advertising, whatever it is that you're doing, how far do you see it going? What's the short-term goals? What's the long-term goals? Is it worth your time? If it's worth your time, are you going to give it 100%? Or are you going to give it 1,000%? You know, are you going to show up for it every day? Are you going to be there when it's really boring and it's just you? When I was doing the world record, I started out and there was hype around it, but it hit me the first night, or what I say, the first morning, when everybody partied with me. The first night is like, yeah, cool. 5 a.m., the crowd is turning down. 6 a.m. is slowing down. And by like 7, you know, one of the not last people, but I had the staff of the restaurant there still there, but one of the last people to leave was like, hey, Obi, I got to go to work. I'll come back later. You know, and it was like, wait, hold up. I'm doing this by myself now? I thought everybody wanted to party. You know what I mean? Like, and then that was when the work really started for me, because I realized that, one, I signed up for something crazy and I can't go home right now, and I have to see this through. So in those boring moments where I was supposed to be falling asleep, and I still had to fight sleep to stay up, to keep pushing through. Little did I know I was conditioning my mind for a different level of toughness, and as suicidal as that was, please do not do it, because I found out later you could just sleep and not wake up. But as suicidal as that was, it created a different kind of beast in me to keep pushing. It's perseverance, it's understanding consistency when it's not comfortable. It's not always going to be soft, it's not always going to be rosy. And that is what I've applied to everything else. So if you're working on a project for an advertising, or a brand you're advertising, or coming up with a strategy, it's really how far you want it to go. How much of a mark do you want to make with that idea? Because as small as an idea it seems right now, it could be the greatest thing that you would have done ever. You know what I mean? So I apply all those things to planning Obi's house. How intentional do I want it to be? I, from my world record experience, understood organic marketing, where like people want to discover things versus you rub it into their face, but sometimes they don't know where to look to discover. So how do you bring it to them where it's like, oh, I found this, and even though you've been holding it in your hand, it's like, yeah, you found it, so what do you want to do with it now, and how long do you want to keep it going, and stuff like that, So there's a lot tied into that, but it really just boils down to how you want to leave that legacy mark with, such a small gesture.
I love that. I love the how good do you want it part, right? We often don't think of it through that lens. But also you just made me think of something. Stamina and endurance have a fraternal twin brother named longevity,
yes.
right? And you, my friend, have been able to conquer that, man. So talk about just staying in it, for a long time.
All right, so I'm 56, right? I'm about to be 56 October, right?
Congrats. Swag. Ooh. It don't crack.
No, I only did that just to let y'all know it's just completely a new era. You know what I mean? You got DJs going 1,000 hours not sleeping. You got 56-year-olds doing handstands. What are we doing?
I'm 40 and I'm not going to neither one of those things is going to happen today.
But it's just what you're passionate about. So I would say longevity comes from your pure passion. And keep in mind, I met just now.
Literally.
In the back.
Yeah.
He walked in with my other man. They was talking to my manager. I was just like, I got a new song out. I don't even know what he do, whatever. And I'm like, listen to this. Literally, I'm like, please listen to my demo, as if I'm not Wyclef Jean, done sold 200 million records and have from Beyonce to all of them, name drop. But just saying, right? But I say that because I always tell my daughter, I'm like, longevity means you find what you're passionate about. So that's really the key. Anybody who's saying anything else, they capping. The way that I'm able to constantly be present in my longevity is because everything that I'm doing, I love. So if I'm doing music, I love it. If I'm doing the technology, it's so many parts of technology, I find a part that I love. If I'm doing humanitarian work, I love working with children. You know what I mean? I ain't gonna run for president no more, though. That shit was crazy. But what I learned from that was the idea of job creation comes from private sector. So if you're able to build and be able to negotiate with, uncorrupted private sector, you can move the country forward. You know what I mean? Despite of what you see in Haiti today, we have Educare, which I'm part of sponsoring, is a robotics division out of Jacmel. The youngest kid is 12. This is the third year. They went to Greece last year, came number 3 in the world stage with robotics. And this year, they're going to Panama, right? So again, and I'm right there with them. I'm like a screaming little kid. And this is what I consider longevity. Longevity is not to show up, right? One thing, I remember being with Tupac, right? In the dressing room, we had a crazy conversation. It was like literally like a Black Panther talking to Toussaint Louverture. And one thing I just remember, about that was the idea of how you can have 10,000 songs. So if you like, yo, Clef, how many songs that you have that nobody have heard? I'd be like, probably like 3,000-4,000. You'd be like, how many songs that Miss Hill have, Lauren, that you, probably the same. And we could go on with all of the artists, because we're not just doing music when it's an era to do music. When you love something, it's just part of what you do every day.
Sorry, you want to tap in something that hit me when he's talking about how we met, with even tied into what we're talking about right now. When you do what you do, when you're passionate about it, you have to own it. And a lot of us are very humble with the great things that we do and the things that we come up with. And I learned that lesson just even meeting him right now, because it's one thing to be passionate about what you do, and it's one thing to own it, to king it. Like, I don't know if I'm cutting through. It's like, almost like sometimes we do a lot of great things that we don't speak about. And when I walked into the room and he did what he did, I'm like, bruh, why you me? Like, you playing the track for me? It's mind blowing. But in that moment, I learned that, like, yo, you gotta speak up in every room. You gotta be bold when you walk into the room. And there's levels to being humble, but don't be humble to where it hurts you. Let it be humble to where it's elevating you. Just to, that's where you want the discernment to know when to pull the bragging card or whatever. But just don't be humble to stupor where it's like nobody knows anything about you. You know what I mean? Because that to me was mind blowing. It was a great lesson for me, and I wanted to share that with everybody. Like, listen, like, this is Wyclef sit here. Like, if he could pull that off with me, who I'm not saying I'm in the same sense, not saying I'm nobody, but in comparison to a legend, he really, that was so humble of him, and like, it literally blew my mind and taught me a valuable lesson in like being bold in whatever you're passionate about.
When he said that you know what this remind me of? Y'all gonna be like, I'm name dropping again. Prince. Name drop. Yo, Prince. It's like, I see him in a crazy stadium, right? But then Prince is like, yo, you know what the Pulse is? And then we go to this tiny ass club in New York, and it's like, that's like Prince showing up like 1 a.m. And it's literally like 200 people there. And he's like, that's the Pulse. That's the Pulse. The Pulse is you. The Pulse is the people. That's the Pulse. And I always want y'all to remember that. Because sometimes to get to that big data, I always say, what happens if you reverse the metrics, right? So when you reverse the metrics, you're going to find an Amy Winehouse. She's not on social media. When you reverse the metrics, you'll find the next Beyonce. She's not on social media. So at times, you have to look at the data, understand the culture, but once in a while, understand what's going on with the buzz before it actually happens.
Wow, that's heavy. So you made me think, when you did one of those name drops, you made me think of something that I would love to explore in this conversation a little bit. So as you said, and as we talked about earlier, I'm from Chicago, right? And Chicago house music for sure, but Chicago has a very interesting relationship and an embracing relationship with Haitian culture, because many of you may not know that the founder of Chicago was a Haitian immigrant man by the name of Jean-Baptiste Point du Sable. And if you grew up like I did, and I saw Cootie here earlier, and I know my friend Jeff Osuji from Event Noir is here, you hear that name a lot, right? But I also grew up in the house where my father talked a lot about revolutionaries, some good, some bad, but he always studied them. So we talked a lot about George Washington and Pancho Villa, and folks like Simon Bolivar. But to the point that you made earlier, Toussaint L'Ouverture, right? And being the person to lead the nation state of Haiti into freedom at a very, very early stage in this globe's history, right? And the fact that he was able to do that under some tough circumstances, the fact that he whooped up on the French so bad that they had to sell a bunch of their territory here in places that we now know as America. Talk about that fight for freedom for your people, and how you convey that in your music, and what creative freedom looks like based on the legacy of Toussaint.
No problem. Yo, you okay, man? You, man? You all right? Can I see your hand on your, you cool though? Making sure. You're not bored, are you? No, I'm trying to make sure. You sure? I could do something from the score for you if you're bored. Are you like, hold up, I thought this guy was just coming to sing Shakira Hips Don't Lie. He's fucking talking. Now he's going to tell me about Toussaint Louverture. Dude, I could Google that shit. All right, y'all know I get my comedian chops from Dave Chappelle. No, just to say, so Toussaint Louverture, first black general. And, you know, so when I'm explaining that to my little nephews and niece, I said, well, that's equivalent to like a golf coach that's black. Because it's almost like they set it up where you can fight in the field, but you can't strategize the chess game. So it's like very big to understand that the idea of a man in a level thinking like, yo, I can negotiate with Napoleon on that level. So for us, like Toussaint was, because of Toussaint and the general that he was, it made me trace back to Benin. It made me trace back to Nigeria. It made me trace back to Congo to understand where he comes from. And when I did my DNA test, I found out I was like 50% Nigerian. And the first thing I thought about, I was like, man, do you know, then I understood why I was so defiant and why I was the way I was. Because for you to keep that bloodline at 50%, man, you really got to do a lot of fighting. You know what I mean? So in saying that, Chicago and Haiti, I mean, when y'all get a chance, you could go on ChatGPT or whatever AI you use and just Google, like, you know, Haitian fun facts with Chicago. And you'll come, or just Haitian fun facts with America in general. Frederick Douglass, different people. So I would say like the greatest thing that I learned about Toussaint Louverture, and the reason his ability and he knew that he could do whatever he did was, even, remember, he studied like under the French. And you get what I'm saying to you? It's like he understood the Africana. Like a lot of people don't. That Toussaint knew he was an African. And at the end of the day, if he was an African, he understood the power of that.
Absolutely. And so I know we got a little bit of time left, and so we're going to wrap it up shortly. But so I've got a 4-year-old son, and one thing I do to him is try to indoctrinate him with my music like my father did me, right? So we're at the stage now where I'm sprinkling in the folks who I think are the GOATs, right? Folks like Curtis Mayfield and Prince and Jimi Hendrix and Bob Marley. But also much of the soundtrack to my young life, right? So Black on Both Sides, 36 Chambers, The Carnival. So he actually just got put on the Carnival a few weeks ago, which is why this meeting is serendipitous. But I had to look it up, and it's crazy to me that this is almost 30 years old, right? And so when I think about, once again, stamina and legacy and being able to have that staying power, I also think about making your music or your art irresistible, right? And when I think about that, I think about the work that we do here in the out-of-home industry. And the cool thing about billboards is, in a space and time where everybody scrolls and clicks past stuff they don't want to look at, you can't scroll past a billboard. You can try to drive by it quicker, but it's going to be there, right? And so how do you make your art irresistible and timeless in a way that people can ignore it?
So my late mentor, Quincy Jones.
From Chicago.
Heavy. So that's the guy. Like, I seen this guy. He's like my invincible hero. When I heard Michael Jackson, I went and was like, who's doing this record? And then I got put up on Quincy. And the first time I met Quincy, I was scoring an off-Broadway play. I was barely 18 years old. And I did music for the play. The play was The Twelfth Night by Shakespeare. And it was a hip-hop musical. So when they write about it, they say 25 years before Hamilton. So we did the first hip-hop musical. So one day I remember Quincy Jones is the man who brought me to Jazz Festival in Montrose. He introduced me. And then one thing, I had one question for Q. And this question is going to help everybody. I said, Q, like, dude, man, you like jazz, like from me, so I understand that. We connect that. But then you conducting for Frank Sinatra. Then you doing Everybody in the World. Then you doing yoga. Then, you know what I'm saying to you? And then you doing We Are the World. And then it's endless and it's endless and endless. And what's the secret? You know what I'm saying? And then he says, the secret is the pulse of the youth, forever young. That means that, you see, when I come in here, being that I talk to him, you see that puts an extra 20 years in my career, right? Being that, just take a second out, and my niece is 12, I take time out, and I'm like, what is this dance? And she starts to teach me this dance, and next thing you know, she puts me on TikTok without me knowing, right? Forever young, right? Forever young means, you know, understanding the culture, watching every generation, and having a science, because sometimes we get so older and older, we have kids, we have responsibility, we have bills, that's why when you show up and Wyclef perform, I make you forget your age. You just feel like you're 12 years old forever. So I would say, as y'all leave and y'all go back, always remember, right, the pulse of happiness, laughter, understanding. Never lose that child that's within you. Never, never lose that child. Once you lose that child that's within you, then you've lost your pulse. That's what I would say.
That deserves a hand clap, for real.
Yeah. Amazing. For me, as you asked that question and you specifically said billboard, I was going to immediately challenge it and be like, you know, well, billboards these days are digital. But then in that, I found my answer to say that the way I make it stick is I like to simplify things. And if that means staying traditional, you know, and working my way up to the digital, then that's how it happens for me. Because, again, I like the, you know, traditional way of things, marketing and advertising, word of mouth and stuff like that, because to me, that's when it sticks. If you're in everybody's conversation versus on everybody's phone, people pretend on their phone that they don't see it, so they might not like the post, or they might like the post and really not care about it. You know, it's like back in the day when Facebook used to have events and everybody would click attending, but nobody would show up. You know what I mean? So you have to simplify things. Talk to people. So for what has worked for me, I talk to everybody about what I do. I walk into the room to try and, you know, meet people, to talk to them about it and make the people that I meet my personal billboards to where they're going to go and speak about it in different groups, in different group chats, post about it. You know, however they advertise, they're going to do that for me, but I want to make sure that everybody in the room is my personal billboard. So I simplify it by just being personable and talking to everybody.
That's what's up. I think we're down to about 1 minute, so we're going to do a quick lightning round, y'all. So I'm going to start off a sentence. If you can complete that sentence for me, that would be very helpful. So we're going to start with you, Clef. Finish the sentence.
You could finish with me because I'm going to freestyle
finish
the
with you
last
too.
30 seconds.
I'm going to finish with you, too.
Yeah.
We'll start with you and finish with you. So so the sentence is this. Finish it for me. The future of black creativity is?
The future of black creativity is the culture.
There it is. All right, Obi, finish the sentence. If you could put one message on every billboard in the world, what would it say?
Stay consistent.
There it is. Clef, finish the sentence. The first voice that made you believe in music was?
God.
There it is. Obi, last one. Finish the sentence. AI will never replace
your soul. I learned that today. AI will never replace your soul.
There it is. Take us home, Clef.
I am the master of AI. AI is not the master of
me.
I am the master of AI. AI is not the master of. Peep me on the billboard. Let's get into it with no anger. When it comes to freestyle, picture I'm on the billboard. That's the picture. Now let's get into it. Imagine before AI, when I flipped the language and went from English to the Spanish, like, mira amiga, buenos días, señorita, ¿cómo está usted y su familia? Estoy bien en el micrófono, espero que todos están bien como yo. You finally waking up, nigga, but you still ain't convinced. You might get convinced when I flip it in French. Listen, Quand je marche dans la vallée de la mort, je ne crains aucun mal, car tu es avec moi. Quand je fais l'amour, on m'appelle Romeo. C'est l'histoire de ma vie, toujours à le plus haut. Trust me when it comes to freestyle. I wreck it. I don't sleep for over 300 hours. Like my man, I'm breaking the record. Come and test me, I'm a true MC. Like I could go from English to the Japanese, like ichi ni san chi go no ko shichi hachi. If I missed you, that's me counting in Japanese. Na 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 hanyang hashamika ha ha se suli se rang ham nita. That's Korean. Trust me, I stay in the zone. I've been doing this shit way before Rosetta Stone. I am the master of I, and AI is not the master of gang.
Wyclef Jean and DJ Opie, everybody.
I used to get like money in the hood to do this.